It's 6:45 a.m. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The morning news edited by Danishka Madhavala, read by Sounditavam. The President emphasizes the imperative of not forgetting the hardships endured in the past due to the shortages of essential resources. China pledges support to achieve debt sustainability. The President affirms Sri Lanka's commitment on promoting eco-tourism. A special train service has been deployed until tomorrow for pilgrims to travel free from Anuradhapura to Mihintale. 2 suspects held with local cannabis valued at over 20 million rupees in Tissamaharama. A revised circular on the 2025 Grade 1 student admissions. In foreign news, the UN chief says that the world cannot afford Lebanon becoming another Gaza. President Ranil Wickremesinghe emphasized the imperative of not forgetting the hardships endured in the past due to the shortage of essential resources such as medicines, fuel and fertilizers critical for the country. He called upon all citizens to unite behind the government's initiative aimed at fostering a new economic transformation in Sri Lanka, ensuring that future generations do not have to face similar challenges. The President highlighted this during his address at the 9th General Assembly of the All-Ireland Private Pharmacy Owners Association, which took place on Thursday in Colombo. The President also extended his appreciation to the All-Ireland Private Pharmacy Owners Association for their steadfastness during the past COVID-19 pandemic and economic crisis, fulfilling their responsibilities to the country. Following the enactment of the New Medicines Act in 2015, the establishment of the All-Ireland Private Pharmacy Owners Association had been facilitated. The association has played a crucial role in regulating drug prices, ensuring adequate drug supply, and actively contributing to various social welfare initiatives, including bolstering the government's Kidney Fund and Health Fund. President Ranil Wickremesinghe presented awards to the All-Ireland Private Pharmacy Owners Association President, Chandika Gankanda, top-performing officials, and to top-performing district associations. The Board of Directors of the association also presented a memento to the President. The Chinese government on Thursday said that China will continue supporting Sri Lanka to achieve debt sustainability. China will keep supporting Sri Lanka to achieve debt sustainability, as it always has been doing to help the country's socio-economic development, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Lin Jian said in Beijing. The spokesman made these comments at a regular press conference in response to a media question about the recent diplomatic consultations between China and Sri Lanka in the Chinese capital. He added that on the 13th round of China-Sri Lanka diplomatic consultations, China has released a readout which you may refer to. He also highlighted that they stand ready to continue to work with relevant countries and international financial institutions to support Sri Lanka's debt sustainability. President Ranil Wickremesinghe emphasized Sri Lanka's commitment to advancing eco-tourism through the conservation of wetlands. He underscored the futility of waiting for external funding to combat climate change and environmental challenges, urging tropical countries to explore self-sustaining financial models tied to environmental projects. Speaking at the closing ceremony of the inaugural WLI Asia-Oceania Conference 2024, President Wickremesinghe highlighted Sri Lanka's proactive stance. The conference, organized by the Sri Lanka Land Development Corporation under the Ministry of Housing, aimed to foster collaboration for the sustainable management of wetlands. Held from June 17th to the 21st at Desaru Wetland Park, Battaramulla, the event focused on the theme Wetlands and Wetland Centres for Eco-Friendly Tourism. This news broadcast comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Cabinet spokesman and Mass Media Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena said that a special train service has been deployed until tomorrow for pilgrims to travel free from Anuradhapura to Mihintale. He was speaking at the weekly Cabinet media briefing held Thursday at the Government Information Department. He said that he hopes to provide the same service if the sponsors come forward on the other days as well. In addition, the minister said that a special bus service has been deployed from Anuradhapura to the Sri Mahabodhi, and more than 400 buses have been deployed to travel to Anuradhapura and Mihintale. The newly built railway line from Anuradhapura to Mihintale is about 2 kilometers long. The railway line at Mihintale, which started during late President Premadasa's era, completely abandoned, and measures have been made to completely renovate and start up to Mihintale, and the train service from Anuradhapura to Mihintale was started. The Cabinet of Ministers has granted its consent to the proposal forwarded by the Education Minister Susil Premajantha to revise the circular pertaining to the admission of students to grade 1 of schools with effect from 2025. Cabinet spokesman and Mass Media Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena said that it has been decided to enroll children in the first grade for 2025 and the following years as per the instructions given in the revised circular. The minister stated this at a media conference held recently at the Government Information Department. Accordingly, the minister said that the admission of children to grade 1 of schools will be done in accordance with this circular to ensure equal access to education, transparency, and to reduce irregularities. That concludes local news.
The main news story is brought to you by Sinhala Vedamahatmya.
The Dharma Rashmi Homagama Posan Zone, annually held to coincide with Posan Poya, will be held till tomorrow. This time the Dharma Rashmi Posan Zone spans 13 kilometers, covering Diyagama, Pitipana, Dampe, Migoda, Godagama, Panagoda and Homagama. Lake House is the print and digital media sponsor. The electronic media sponsors are the SLRC, ITN and the SLBC. Cash prizes to the value of 4 million rupees will be given to the winners of the Posan Lantern competition. The Posan Zone is conducted under the instructions of Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena. The Homagama Sasana Rakshaka Balamandalaya, the Presidential Secretariat, the Transport and Highways Ministry, the Western Provincial Council, the Homagama Divisional Secretariat, Homagama Pradeshya Sabha, the Homagama Zonal Education Office, the Army and the Police are jointly organizing the Posan Zone and came to you in the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Sinhala Vedamahatmya.
Moving on to Watchlight. A coordinated operation conducted by the Navy, Coast Guard and the police in Kirinda Tissamaharama in the dark hours of the 20th of June 2024 led to the arrest of 2 suspects who were preparing over 104 kilograms of local cannabis for transportation and the seizure of a cab. The Navy and the Coast Guard conduct regular search operations to combat illegal activities including drug trafficking. The gross street value of the seized local cannabis is believed to be over 20 million rupees and came to you in Watchlight.
Coming up, World News.
Making headlines this morning, the UN chief says that the world cannot afford Lebanon becoming another Gaza. Steve Bannon asked the US Supreme Court to delay prison term. Top comedian sworn in as Malawi's vice president. The United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres expressed increasing concern over the escalating war of words and deadly border clashes between Israel's military and Lebanon's Hezbollah fighters. UN peacekeepers are working to calm the situation and prevent miscalculation after both sides heightened their rhetoric and raised the possibility of full-scale conflict, he said on Friday. Hezbollah has fired rockets and drones into Israel since it launched its war on Gaza last October, with the Israelis responding with deadly airstrikes and heavy artillery fire. Hundreds have been killed and tens of thousands displaced along the border. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Yoav Gallant have previously pledged to turn Beirut into Gaza. This week, Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah warned of no restraint and no rules if Israel launches a major attack on Lebanon. Steve Bannon, a close ally of former President Donald Trump, has asked the Supreme Court to delay his 4-month prison sentence while he appeals against his conviction. He was found guilty nearly 2 years ago on contempt of Congress charges after he defied a subpoena from the Congressional Committee investigating the 6th January riot in Washington. A judge ruled that Bannon must report to prison to serve his sentence by 1st July. His appeal against that decision was denied on Thursday by a federal appeals court, so the Supreme Court remains Bannon's last chance at delaying his prison term. Peter Navarro, another Trump advisor, failed a similar bid to overturn his contempt of Congress sentence and is currently serving time in prison. Top comedian turned politician Michael Uzi has been sworn in as Malawi's vice president at a ceremony held in Parliament in the capital, Lilongwe. The 55-year-old replaces Saulos Chilima, who died in a plane crash earlier this month along with 8 other people. Dr. Uzi received a standing ovation when he spoke after his inauguration, saying he accepted the role with a mixture of sadness and gratitude. He promised to honor his predecessor's memory and thanked President Lazarus Chakwera for believing in him as he takes up his position as vice president in the power-sharing government. Back to the headlines of the world news. The UN chief says that the world cannot afford Lebanon becoming another Gaza. Steve Bannon asked the US Supreme Court to delay prison term. And top comedian sworn in as Malawi's vice president. That concludes world news.
Development news.
In view of World Oral Health Day, the Sri Lanka Navy conducted mobile dental services to school children and naval personnel recently in the North Central Naval Command. The dental clinics organized by the dental services of the Sri Lanka Navy were held at the Ambagahawava Primary School in Madhavachia, Sri Rahula Primary School in Punava, and Kadukaran Kudiripu Roman Catholic Mixed School in Mana, as well as the naval establishments in the North Central Naval Command. That's development news.
Moving on with sports news.
Xavi Simons had a second-half goal controversially ruled out as the Netherlands and France played out the first goalless draw of Euro 2024. The French started without Kylian Mbappe after he broke his nose in the win against Austria on Monday, and they clearly missed their captain as they failed to take a number of chances. But it will be the Netherlands who will feel most aggrieved at not claiming the 3 points after Simons' strike was chalked off. That came to you in sports news. We take a look at business news next.
Go ekaktiana youth ekata life eke change ekata niyameta set wenna as wahagena dakapu hina habe karanna youth ekata niyameta set wenna friendship ekata menna.
The all-new NSB Ithru account, NSB IAM, a plan for your dream.
Business news, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
TikTok says it offered the US government the power to shut the platform down in an attempt to address lawmakers' data protection and national security concerns. It disclosed a kill switch offer which it made in 2022 as it began its legal fight against legislation that will ban the app in America unless Chinese parent company ByteDance sells it. The law has been introduced because of concerns TikTok might share US user data with the Chinese government, claims it, and ByteDance have always denied. TikTok and ByteDance are urging the courts to strike the legislation down. That's business news, economic news up next.
Business news, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Go ekaktiana youth ekata life eke change ekata niyameta set wenna as wahagena dakapu hina habe karanna youth ekata niyameta set wenna friendship ekata menna.
The all-new NSB Ithru account, NSB IAM, a plan for your dream.
On to economic news. The UK government's borrowing in May hit the highest since the COVID crisis, but was lower than the UK's fiscal watchdog had forecast. Borrowing reached 15 billion sterling pounds last month, which is 800 million sterling pounds higher than May last year. It means that the public sector spent more than it received in taxes and other income, leading the government to borrow billions of pounds. It is the third highest figure for May since records began in 1993, surpassed only by the pandemic years. That's economic news.
Weather report.
The Met Department says that showers will occur at times in the western, Sabragamo and northwestern provinces, also in the Kandy, Nuwara, Galle and Martara districts. Heavy showers, about 100 millimeters, are likely at some places in the western and Sabragamo provinces and in Kandy and the Nuwara districts. Several spells of light showers will occur in Matale and the Anuradhapura districts. Strong winds of about 40 to 50 kilometers per hour can be expected at times over the western slopes of the Central Hills, northern, north-central and northwestern provinces and also in Trincomalee, Hambantota and the Monoragala districts. To conclude this bulletin of news, a recap of the headlines. The President emphasizes the imperative of not forgetting the hardships endured in the past due to the shortages of essential resources. China pledges support to achieve debt sustainability. The President affirms Sri Lanka's commitment on promoting eco-tourism. A special train service has been deployed until tomorrow for pilgrims to travel free from Anuradhapura to Mihintale. 2 suspects held with local cannabis valued at over 20 million rupees in Tisamaharama. A revised circular on the 2025 Grade 1 student admissions. And the UN chief says that the world cannot afford Lebanon becoming another Gaza. With that, we conclude this morning's news broadcast, and now it's back to your host, Sanal, to keep you well entertained on a rather gloomy, quiet Saturday morning. Well, it's all yours, Sanal, and a very good morning to you.